Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Zeller. I wanted to first thank the National Association of State Fire Marshals for allowing me to speak today. Very humble to be here. And today I would like to talk about the future of community risk reduction. So I'm going to go through a couple questions here, a couple hot topics that are in the industry now and in the fire service, and looking forward to this. So let me introduce myself first. My name is Brian Zeller. I've been a firefighter for 8 years now. I'm currently a captain of a truck company for my fire department. I'm also very thankful to be the union representative of my department and my union, so I do a lot with that. I have a wife, a 1 year old, and we're actually expecting our next child here soon, so I feel like I have a very unique background when it comes to the job leadership role, union leadership role, my family. So community risk reduction is very important to me, to put it lightly. So I wanted to open this up with a motivating statement for everybody. And my question would be, are we doing the best that we can do for the community? While we go through and I'm answering some of these hot topic items and possibly questions at the end, please take the time to think to yourself, are we doing the best that we can do for our community? Is there anywhere we know that we're lacking or that we're slacking or we're not putting enough programs or resources into? Where are some areas that we're the weakest? Do we have a strong team? Do we have strong leadership? Do we have a great relationship with our community? These are all questions that I want you to think throughout this presentation to get an idea and to start thinking about areas that you can improve as we go along. So, future of fire prevention. Let's go through some data that the state of Florida has to work with. So I thought long and hard about where to take this, but something near and dear to my heart, my community's heart, is the most recent devastating hurricane, Hurricane Ian. I live in Southwest Florida. I work for South Trail Fire and Rescue, which is in the city, which is in Lee County, which is within the city of Fort Myers. We had a lot of devastation. A lot of our neighboring communities had a lot of devastation. One thing that we ran was we ran a large amount of fires shortly after for two reasons. People not having their breakers turned off in their home, and unfortunately when power getting kicked on, electricity going through areas it shouldn't. Super dangerous. A lot of fires caught on a lot of houses caught on fire through the breaker panel, through shoddy wiring inside the home, kitchens, things like that. So we lost a lot of homes, unfortunately, shortly after that. We also had several fires afterwards that were generator caused fires. So those are two big areas moving forward, especially during hurricanes and natural disasters, that we can begin to talk with our community about, hey, make sure breakers are turned off so that way when power is turned back on, you're not sending really bad surge or backfeeding wires to create a fire in your home. So a lot of people were leaving the area with their breakers turned on. Obviously, they're not going to turn them off, and they were coming back to their house being burned to the ground, which is just extremely sad. So that was one area that people can be educated on, is electricity, and how electricity is fed through their lines into their house. We had a lot of people that have the line coming into the house, that big metal rod was snapped off, and that was causing really bad arcing and things like that when power was turned back on. We had a great deal of fires within the first 3 weeks due to that. Also, like I said, generator safety. We still, in our area, with all the hurricanes and generator use that we've had over the last 20, 30 years, we still have people dying from carbon monoxide poisoning and setting their houses on fires due to generator. And if one of those happens anytime after a hurricane, we're not doing a good enough job, and that's an area that we need to start attacking. So those are just two big areas for me. Like I said, being from the Southwest Florida community, and we were ravaged by Hurricane Ian, so those are just two areas near and dear to my heart that is going to be going forward in our community risk reduction plan. So let's talk about the fire service culture for a second. I feel like a lot of times, especially when it comes to community risk reduction, the fire service gets kind of a bad rap. The culture gets a bad rap. The guys and girls on the floor, on the line, get a bad rap. Here's ultimately how I view it, and how I hope a lot of people should start to view it. The men and women that are in the fire service want to help people. They have always wanted to help people, whether they're in it for the pension or they're in it for the Facebook photos or they're in it because it looked cool. At the end of the day, everybody does want to help people because it is a fantastic, fantastic feeling. Nothing's better than having a fire that runs smoothly or a cardiac arrest that runs smoothly and you're helping people and people looking at you saying thank you. With that being said, I think I can speak for a lot of the culture too. A lot of men and women on the floor want to know the why. A lot of times they're given, this is the program, this is the resource, this is what we're doing, go follow it up. And obviously, in the fire service, being a paramilitary organization, we have to sometimes follow commands without needing the why. But for programs that involve community risk reduction, it's extremely important that we're giving the why to those men and women. When you give the why, you can create buy-in. I'd like to give a small example. My fire department several years ago started a extra reporting to be attached to our regular medical report for ground level falls. At the time, this was just explained, hey, we're going to start doing extra reporting for ground level falls. A lot of the men and women on the floor, we were kind of frustrated with it. We already have a detailed report we need to write. We're writing 7, 8, 9 calls a shift already. Now I have to do another report for the same call. It's a very common call, and we thought it was just strictly a data dump where they're just trying to find the data so somebody can just comb through the data. So for a lot of us, we didn't like it. I don't think it was it wasn't followed out very well by the men and women on the line. Obviously, that's not the right thing to do. But eventually, we had a training and an educating of, hey, this is what we're going to be doing moving forward with this data. These are the resources that we are going to be handing towards these people that are having these ground level falls. This is what we're going to do to help these people. So that ultimately opened up a lot of eyes. I think a lot of the men and women realize, okay, this is helping. This will be great for our community. So I think, like I said, the fire service culture may get a bad rap at times to where the men and women don't want to follow. They just want to run calls and that's it. I don't think that's it at all. I think they need to know the why. They want to create buy-in. They want to be a stakeholder in it. They want to have a say. And at the end of the day, the men and women on the floor and on the line are the ones that are interacting with the community more than anybody. So who knows more about what the community could benefit from a community risk reduction standpoint than the men and women that are on the trucks, that are running the calls, that are helping the people on a day-to-day basis. So I think it's very important to create buy-in. As a leader in the fire service myself, I try to create buy-in with my crew at all times. Obviously, like I stated, sometimes you just have to follow an order and it is what it is. But a lot of times we have plenty of time to create that buy-in, explain the why, and I think that just helps create a better team moving forward. So I hope that answers that question. I hope people start to understand that the fire service culture, a lot of people want to know the why because they're smart individuals that want to make good decisions, that want to help people. So give them the ability to do that. So let's talk about citizens and community outreach. How can large, diverse groups be motivated? What methods can be used to establish networking among communities within a state? How can fire educator groups be motivated and prepared for effective and diverse fire safety education programs? I think it's extremely important that, wow, excuse me. I think it's extremely important, like I said earlier, to create buy-in. One way to create buy-in from the community is community outreach. So, for example, let's use the ground level fall data that we were talking about. My department started to comb through. With that data, we can start to go to these elderly communities, maybe these nursing home centers, maybe these 55 and older trailer communities, these 55 and older home communities. We could start looking for these HOAs that have a large elderly population. We can go there and explain to them, hey, this is what we're doing. We're trying to help you. And then we can start educating those people. But that's community outreach, going out to those HOA and those neighborhood leaders and those community leaders and creating, hey, this is what we're trying to do. We're recognizing that ground level falls are a large issue. This is the data. Hey, 75% of people on their first ground level fall begin to deteriorate very quickly. A lot of data shows that after you have your first ground level fall, you're going to start going down a very poor path. You could possibly end up in a nursing home, in a rehab facility, and now we start going down and down and down. Hey, no throw rugs, things like that. So we could start to educate the people through community outreach, going out, talking to them, educating them. Also, I think it's the most important thing with community risk reduction is relationship building. We need to build relationship with community leaders, neighborhood leaders, politicians, and then other communities. It's really important to build these relationships. So when you need something, you have somebody you can talk to, somebody you can ask, somebody you can ask for resources, somebody you can ask for money. So it's important to build those relationships. One good way to build relationships is with neighboring communities. It's important that you're reaching out to your neighboring communities and you've built a very strong relationship with them. So perhaps you can do things such as share data and results with one another. Hey, this is what we're doing with ground level falls. Are you guys doing anything about it? Awesome. What are you guys doing? Perfect. Hey, this is our data. What's your data? Oh, we didn't recognize that. Oh, I didn't see that. That's awesome. So the ultimate goal is to help the communities and everybody to be safe. If my community is the safest in the world and I'm surrounded by 3 or 4 communities that are the unsafest in the world, that doesn't benefit me. Hey, are my citizens safe? Yes, but they're going to travel to those other outlying areas. People are going to travel into our community, so it's important to help those other communities around. And I think a lot of times relationship building gets lost in our new age of technology and social media and not having face-to-face conversations. So I think building a strong relationship with community leaders, politicians, neighboring communities is extremely important. Also, another important thing is as somebody in charge of the community risk reduction at your district or department, it's important that you're putting high integrity people in that position. Whether they're inside the district or outside of the district. Perhaps you're creating a team of neighborhood leaders. It's important to have strong integrity and people that genuinely care about the district. I always say that the people that grow up here or the people that live here are always going to have more care than someone from outside of this area about the community. I think it's important that you're finding those people that live in the community, that truly care about the community, that know, hey, that's an unsafe road that I drive down with my family every day or every other day, or my son goes to school and his bus stop is unsafe because it's on a major road. So these are all things that those people are going to have more buy-in because this is where they're from, this is where their kids grow up, this is where their wives and husbands live, this is where their parents live, their grandparents. So it's important to recognize those people that are in that community that can create a very strong community risk reduction team with you, whether they're inside or outside the district. I find that very important. So moving on, let's talk about training, education, and professional development. So, like I stated earlier about the example of ground level falls, we were given a task. We weren't really crazy about the task. We didn't understand the why. I would say the following up on it was probably 50%. Then we had a training and education. Hey, this is why we do the things we do, and this is how your data is going to help the people. Awesome. And then we were probably close to 100% compliance after that moment. So it's extremely important to be training and educating our staff and personnel within the fire district. I think it's very important to quarterly have meetings and conversations with the men and women on the line to explain to them, this is where we're going, this is where we're currently at, these are the programs we're looking to create very soon, this is what we need from you guys, this is how we're going to help the community. And having that conversation and that face-to-face talk, I think would go a long way in getting buy-in and getting compliance from the men and women. Also, it's important that we're always starting to create the next wave of community risk reduction team members. So like we stated earlier, you need to have an extremely strong team. You also need to start identifying those young men and women at your department that care about the community, that live in the community, that you know one day maybe they can be a part of this team. So it's, I almost want to say grooming and motivating younger individuals to, hey, is this something that you feel passionately about? We could really use you soon. Hey, these are some classes you can take. Hey, start coming to these meetings. Get involved in commissioner meetings, city council meetings. So that's also very important, and that's part of the training and education and development of your staff and your personnel. So, all right. Changes in the workforce and society. Well, just a couple things that come to mind when I hear that statement. So society is obviously ever evolving. It's from year to year, day to day, month to month, decade to decade, things have completely changed and turned around on their head 50 which ways. So one thing I do think that is constant, like I've stated earlier, is that people that live in the community care about their community. You need to find those people that care about their community and they want a better community. Um, so just a couple things that have changed in the workforce, for example, is especially since COVID happened, a lot of people are staying home more. A lot of people are working more remote. Office buildings that used to have hundreds and hundreds of people in them from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, honestly don't have that much anymore. We're running more fire alarms where it's in the middle of the day and nobody's in the office building because they're all working remotely from home. Will that say the same? I don't know. But that's something to consider with our community risk reduction, that ever evolving workforce society. Another thing, the younger generations now, the millennials, the Gen Zs, they're starting to recognize the fact that they don't want to work as many hours as their parents did because we all grew up. I'm a millennial. I'm 31 years old. I grew up, my father working construction, working 16-hour days, telling me don't ever find a job where you're working more than, this amount a day and, spend more time with the families, make more money so you can spend time with the family. So I think we all took that to heart and realized, hey, we need to spend more time with our families. So those office buildings that, like I said, used to be packed, they're not as packed now because people are trying to spend more time with their family. They're trying to work remotely. They're trying to flex hours. They're trying to take more vacation time. So these are all things that the younger generation of our society are doing. Whether it's for the better or worse, you can argue that, but I tend to try to spend a lot more time with my family than my father ever did after his advice. So that's something to consider when we're making our community risk reduction and the future of community risk reduction. So, so future challenges. So let's talk about future challenges here for a second. My largest future challenge to me is social media. Social media can be a great tool for public service and districts and departments as a whole. It also can be extremely negative and it can get a lot of people in trouble. And a lot of people use it to divide and make divisive statements, which does not benefit any public sector at all. So I think it's important that we're using social media as a tool. We're not relying 100% heavily on it, especially because social media changes so drastically. Social media accounts 2 or 3 years ago that were all the rage are now never used, and then there's just going to be another one coming out. So I think it's also important as a future challenge that we're evolving as a district, as a department, as personnel, as public safety, and as community risk reduction team members. As things change, we need to go with the change, okay? We all say that the one thing firefighters hate is change. So we need to make sure, though, that we're evolving as time goes on, because maybe a program that you created 2 years ago for bike helmets, and now 2 years later there's new technology on bike helmets, and those bike helmets that we were handing out for free to hundreds of kids are obsolete, or maybe kids aren't riding bikes anymore because there's a new latest greatest scooter that has come out and it's all the rage and everyone's getting it, and it comes, you have to have a special different helmet for it. So these are all things that you need to evolve with over time, especially with programs and resources. Another future challenge, I think, is political division. I think we've all seen how divisive politics have become between social media. I'm not even going to say in the public realm because it's way more divisive than things on, the Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the social media accounts. But it's important as a public service district that you're staying out of that political realm, not trying to make programs or resources that divide one another or that are strictly anti against one group. So I think it's important to keep that thought in mind of not creating political division because it just doesn't benefit anybody and it's a bad look for the district. So let's talk about community risk reduction leadership within the fire department and what will be expected of community risk reduction chief officers. Well, the first thing I tell you that should always be expected of a community risk reduction chief officer or leader is strong leadership. They need to have high integrity. They need to have a good educational background. They need to truly care about the community. I would really really push for a chief officer that's involved in the community risk reduction to make sure that they live within the community. They care about the community. Those are the people that we want. Those are the leaders that we want running that. They also, like I stated earlier, probably the most important thing they need to do as the leader is build relationships. Build relationships with politicians, build relationships with neighborhood leaders, community leaders, with HOA leaders, with the school district, the school board, with the teachers. Build relationship with everyone they can. So when they need something, or if they need to start to stress the importance of an impending hurricane or an issue or a pandemic or something happening, people will listen because you've built that relationship with them. They believe you. They trust you. That's our biggest issue with politics now, is nobody can trust any politician. Well, they should be able to trust the community risk reduction leader of their local fire department, because that person's one job is just to care about the community and to make it safer. So build that relationship early and often, whenever you can, with your community and with your personnel. Also networking with outside communities, like we stated earlier. It's important to network with those communities. And to make sure you're sharing data. Like I said before, if you have the safest fire district in the state and you're bordered by 5 communities that are the 5 least safest in your state, that doesn't help you at all. That doesn't help them. Get out there, help them network. So this is where I feel the future of community risk reduction is coming. We have some challenges like social media, technology, political gain, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, make sure we're building relationships, make sure we're doing that community outreach, make sure we're building strong teams within our district and outside the district, make sure we're recognizing those young team members that are going to be fantastic in community risk reduction, make sure we're training and educating our staff and personnel to understand the why and create buy-in, and make sure that we are, at the end of the day, that we care about the community and we want to make the community safer. So I want to thank you for your time. I hope everyone got something out of this, and good luck. And like I stated earlier, are we doing the best that we can do for our community? What can we do different? What can we improve on? Think about that. Thank you.